we go to Germany later on today, Simon and I thrilled to have Spencer in studio as we look ahead to a massive fight this Saturday night at Selhurst Park, your old stomping ground, Simon. Indeed. Spencer, good afternoon to you, sir.
Jim, Simon, how are you all doing?
Everything good with you? We trust. We are doing great, thank you. And of course, if Spencer's here, we're talking boxing. And if we're talking boxing, then it's a special fight for a special belt. How about that? Because on Saturday night, as I said, it's live in talkSPORT, and it all goes down at Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park. This is the prize for the winner. It's owned by Chris Billam-Smith, who will defend his WBO World Cruiserweight title against Richard Riakporhe in an all-British fight. So the two men, you would rightly assume at this stage in the proceedings, very much have got their eyes on Saturday night. Very much focusing on Saturday, Spencer. You know the drill. You've fought many times. You know what it's like in the later stages of preparation. But these two well and truly in it and are in studio with us right now. Richard Riakporhe and Chris Billam-Smith in studio with Simon, myself and Spencer. Gentlemen, good afternoon. I'll describe the scene. We have security in here, as we had with Josh Taylor and Jack Cattrall. Thankfully, you fellas weren't really required on that day. I'm pretty safe to assume you won't be required today. But anyway, just in case. Chris, Richard, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, guys.
Where do we start? How's preparation? How have preparations gone for you, Chris?
Yeah, brilliant. Been a nice long camp. Been in camp since January, so it's been a nice long slow build up, and really taking it up a notch in the last couple of months. So yeah, it's been enjoyable.
And what about yourself, Richard?
Yeah, it's been excellent. Can't complain. Got through it. It's been tough, and just ready to go now.
Yeah, listen, it's a great fight between you two. Obviously, boxed back in 2019. Both come a long way since then. Chris, you've been 10 unbeaten. And you, Richard, you've been 7 unbeaten. Both taken different paths. Chris, you picked up that WBO title. And you've earned the right now, Richard, to challenge for that title. I mean, what would we be expecting? I suppose I'll come to you first, Richard. You was victorious last time on a split decision. What are you expecting from Chris this time?
To be honest, I have no expectations. I'm just more focused on myself and my game plan. I'm hungry. I need this win, and I put in the work and preparation to get this. And
Chris, for yourself, it's all about righting the wrongs of that last one. It was a close fight. You had to pick yourself off the floor in that fight as well, but you fought back, and it went right down to the wire. You smiling at me when I said that way? Smiling at me when I said that?
I was on the floor when he rugby tackled me, but I wasn't on the floor other than that.
Okay, but listen, it was a close, tough fight. It didn't go your way. How do you get victory this time?
Be me. Be me. Relentless. Be vicious. Get my shots off, and that's all I've got to do is focus on myself.
I mean, winning that world title, that sort of elevates a fighter to another level. But this time, you're not boxing at the Vitality Stadium. You're going into Selhurst Park, into Richard's backyard. That tells me, one, that you've got a lot of confidence by doing that. But, you ain't going to have that home advantage and that crowd behind you. Will that make any difference?
No. As long as there's an atmosphere, I don't care. But, I mean, I've got, plenty of people coming up to support me as well. I'll have a decent contingent there. But as long as there's an atmosphere, whether it's for or against me, then, that's what I thrive off of.
Are you irritated, Chris, when that previous defeat at the hands of Richard is brought up? I mean, it's almost inevitable that Spencer would mention it, but it is brought up because the two of you go again.
No, it doesn't irritate me. It was a great fight for my career. If you look at my career since, it taught me a lot, learnt a lot from that first fight, and obviously I've gone on since then to win Commonwealth, British, European and world titles. So it was a huge fight, and I'm very grateful for that fight.
But does it not give Richard something of a psychological advantage?
I don't, not in my head, no.
In yours?
Yeah, I'd say to an extent, of course, because I shared the ring with him before and I've got a victory with him before. But it's the past. And the past is the past.
So you think you've got his number?
I know I've got his number.
Listen, you two fought nearly 5 years ago now. A lot's happened since then. You've both gone on. You've had unbelievable careers, both staying undefeated since that fight. But are you expecting something different to that first fight, Richard? As in, you've both improved a lot. It's one of those fights that we're all going to have an opinion on who's going to win, how he's going to win, etc. No one really knows until the first bell rings, because stylistically, we're guaranteed fireworks on Saturday, right? Because that's what will happen with you two. You're both that sort of style. Are you expecting something different from the first fight?
Yeah, for sure. He's more experienced now. He's become world champion. I'm expecting a very good Chris Billam-Smith. You know, the best that we've ever seen. And I've
seen any weaknesses?
Everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has weaknesses, and sometimes it's just on a night you have to adapt to the situation, see what you can see, and if you have the reaction time and you have the boxing IQ, you exploit what you can see. Have you seen weaknesses in Richard?
Yeah,
Chris?
Yeah, for sure.
You identify them and you focus on them on the night.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what boxing's about. It's a game of chess, and people make mistakes, and you've got to capitalise on those mistakes.
So, my sparring partner, Mr. Jordan, what about this one?
I think it's a great fight. I think, it's a fight between two boys that have fought once before and gone on slightly different directions. You cannot underestimate that Chris Billam-Smith is a world champion and what that does, and the achievement to become a world champion. Richard was at the fight in May last year, rolling around the ring, expecting to be calling out Lawrence Okoli, and Chris Billam-Smith did a job on him. He's gone and defended it against Masterneck. I didn't think it was Chris' greatest performance, but defending a world title is very difficult, and he's gone and done it. And Richard's gone in a different direction. Now, Richard, I think, speaking to some people around him, his mentality's changed. He believes in himself more, steps in a bit more. So you've seen that in recent performances. What you've got, I believe, Spencer, is two guys that are going into a ring genuinely believing it's going to be their night, which means you're going to have a proper fight. It's a world title fight between two very impressive young men. If you look at them in isolation, you know, Chris Billam-Smith doesn't get the moniker the gentleman for no reason. And Richard's background and what he does in society and the way he puts himself out when he's not rolling around with Lawrence Okoli in cinema screens is also very commendable.
That's made us all laugh.
So whilst I have my particular belief system who's going to win this fight, I will be happy for either one of them, because I think both of them are really good advertisements for British boxing. It's a world title fight. It's a really good fight. It'll have echoes of Wardley versus Fraser Clark in terms of, I think it's going to be a very significant battle. I think he's going to have to wrestle this world title away from this fella because he ain't going to get it easy. But I think what we're going to be treated to is a really, really, really good fight.
I'm sure the man that you don't name isn't going to feel disrespected, but do you want to tell us who you think will win it?
I think Richard will win it. Yeah, that's not a slur on Chris. I think it's going to be a hard battle. But my feeling and my gut leans me towards Richard. I think he's got the power. And that doesn't mean that Chris can't take power, because we've seen him on the receiving end of it. But my gut feel tells me that it's Richard Riakporhe's time. But if it were to be Chris Billam-Smith's time, I would be very happy for him, because I think he deserves everything he's got from the sport. I think he's a credit to the sport. I think he's a great world champion. And I think most importantly, what we've got is two British fighters that are going to put on a spectacle, and fans are going to see a really, really good fight.
Are you both of a mind, Chris and Richard, that you come Saturday night, you're going to have to call upon everything to get the win?
Yeah, always.
Everything.
Always, and that's always my my mindset going into a fight, regardless of how I'm feeling or what's going on around me. That's always the mindset, and that's willing to give absolutely everything.
Do you envisage what lies ahead come Saturday night, Richard? Yes, I've envisioned how the fight would go. I envision me doing damage. It's just that simple.
I think it's fair to say, Jim, like, I think, you know, when you get a fight of this magnitude, they both know what they're going into. And it does become, it's not about the physicalities when you get into the penultimate rounds, 10, 11, 12. It then becomes about the psychological battle. And these two have developed since that first fight. They've developed into very good fighters, and they've done their apprenticeship, if you like. So it will be a case of, you know, this is the way that I see it. It will be a case of who wants it most, who's willing to go that little bit extra, because, you know, I think that stylistically, it's one of those ones. You can see it in that 10th round, in that 11th round, where you're back and forth, like we did with Fraser Clark and Fabio Wardley, where you think he's going, and then the other guy comes back. That's what we're going to get on Saturday night, that's for sure, because of what it means to both of you guys. You know, you're a great advert for the sport, the pair of you.
Especially, you just said it. You're both great adverts for the sport, and you're a couple of gentlemen. But is there genuine needle at this stage? Is there a needle between you? I notice you're both looking at me. When Spencer talks, you look at him. When Simon talks, you look at Simon. At no time in here
have you looked at each other in the last few moments? Have you?
Yeah, I looked at him.
Oh, you did there. He did there. I mean, it is tense, right? We know what's at stake, but I mean, what are you? What are your feelings towards each other at this particular time?
Yeah, well, we're fighting on Saturday. On Saturday night, we're going to be, down to our shorts and letting leather go and trying to take each other out, trying to knock out the other person. So any situation, there's going to be that feeling there, and it's for me, it's just excitement.
Is it fair to say that you both got that respect for each other because you both know where you're going to and you both know what you're going to bring to the table? You've done it once before. You understand each other, train together and all that. So you know each other's characters. So it's the ultimate gladiatorial sport, isn't it? You know what you're going into. So you get that respect for the opponent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot to jump in the ring. You need courage, you need heart. It takes a lot. Every single fighter that jumps in the ring, I respect. But at the same time, Chris Billam-Smith, he's got something that I want and something that I dreamed of since I was a young boy, and that's what I'm ready to do. I'm ready to take that off him. And at this moment in time, he's my enemy, And when you're my enemy, it's not a good thing.
Richard, Chris, because of Spencer and Simon, we have a huge boxing following, and we're proud of that. And you guys have a lot to do with that as well, because you've been regularly featuring on the Boxing Hour when we do it. We asked Taylor and Castro to shake hands in here prior to the fight, and they did it. But these gentlemen here were on standby. I'm sure you'd both be able to do this should you choose to do it. I think, Richard, you've been sounded out. But this lunchtime, would you agree to stand up and face off for a very short period of time in here? Our viewers, many viewers all around the country watching live on YouTube and Facebook. I genuinely mean this. Neither Chris nor Richard knew that this was coming. We'll keep out the way. The fellas are behind you. There's a look of terror in that gentleman's face, but I'm sure this will be fine. So Chris and Richard, would you like to stand up and face off ahead of Saturday's fight? If you're listening on talkSPORT around the country at the moment, the silence is deafening in here as Chris Billam-Smith.
We've lost Simon under the table.
And Richard Riakporhe.
You don't have to go under the table, you're already under there.
Gaze into each other's eyes. Gentlemen, you can ease off as we'll head to a break. Chris and Richard, immensely professional of both of you. Thank you very much indeed for that. We'll be back after this.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.